Hey folks, I'm Jeff Hirsch, and in today's video, we'll take a look at the Lightroom Classic 15.4 update that was released by Adobe in June of 2026. The new version of Lightroom Classic features a slew of bug fixes, performance improvements, and added camera support, but the marquee features are a long-awaited duplicate detection tool and a huge improvement to the Select Subject mask. Just a quick note before we get started. As I was recording this video, Adobe issued an additional 15.4.1 update containing an important bug fix. If you have already updated to 15.4, please make sure you get this supplemental point release installed before you use it in a production environment. All right, let's jump in. The first time you launch the new version of Lightroom, your catalog will need to be updated to work with the new features, and depending on the size of your catalog, this might take a few minutes. Your previous catalog will be preserved in the old catalog folder in the same directory as your working catalog. Let's start with the smaller updates. The Edit in Photoshop command now supports 16-bit HDR images, allowing you to round-trip your HDR photos from Lightroom to Photoshop and back again in 16-bit color depth for greater flexibility in your editing process. So here's why this is useful. There are certain blend modes and filters that are not available in 32-bit color, so Adobe now offers us the option to work in 16 bits, where those blend modes and filters are available for use if you need them. The AI denoise feature now is capable of using Apple's neural engine for faster processing. So for those of you with M-series Macintosh computers, M1, M2, M3, M4, etc., the updated version of Lightroom's AI denoise can take advantage of the Apple neural engine that's built into your CPU for much better performance. Rendering is now somewhere between 2.5 and 4 times faster than it was before. With the new update, Adobe has introduced keyword syncing with the Lightroom ecosystem. So keywords from your Lightroom Classic catalog can now be synced with the entire Lightroom Mobile, Lightroom Cloud ecosystem. One caveat I feel that I need to highlight here: hierarchical keywords will appear as non-hierarchical or flat keywords in other Lightroom apps that aren't Lightroom Classic. Now, I rely on keyword hierarchies, so this is something of a disappointment for me and another place where we don't truly have feature parity between Lightroom Classic and the rest of the Lightroom ecosystem. The assisted culling feature is out of early release stage and is now considered ready for regular usage. It has been improved in the latest release, particularly when it comes to group photos, and there's a new grid view that makes culling faster and easier for those of you who do a lot of portrait or event shooting. There's a new background process indicator that can show you which processes are running in the background while you're working, and it includes things like face detection, AI culling, duplicate detection, address lookup, and auto-save to XMP. You can also use the pause and play buttons within this indicator to stop or start those various processes. Adobe has also added new library metadata filters, which also work for smart collections, to reflect the use of AI on any given photo. So you can now filter for if the image has AI, has generative AI, needs AI updates, etc. Likewise, you can build smart collections based on that same new criteria. The performance of the adjustment brush has been improved, and it should be more responsive when you're painting masks now. Adobe has also improved tethering support for Canon cameras, resulting in faster and more reliable tethered shooting. So that's all the smaller stuff. Now let's talk about the big ticket upgrades in Lightroom Classic 15.4. And the first is improved subject masking. Lightroom now makes much more precise subject selections even against busy backgrounds. Look, I'm not going to say that it's 100% perfect in every single situation, but it really is a quantum leap up from the previous version. I'm impressed with how much better it is, and I've got some side-by-side examples comparing the previous algorithm with the new one. The tool was already a great time saver to begin with, but now I find myself doing even less fine-tuning after making an initial subject mask, so my editing time is sped up even more. And there's also a bonus side effect due to the improved subject masking. The same algorithm that's doing figure ground separation in the masking system to isolate the subject from its background is also now being used by the lens blur feature to create the depth map that it uses for blurring. So that tool also benefits from the improved selection routine. So let's start by looking at some before and after examples that compare the old version of the Select Subject mask with the new one. So here's the old subject mask. And if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that there are some areas where it has failed to correctly identify my subject. It's over-selected this area between the spokes here. It's missed this part of the tire. It's missed part of the calf back here, part of the saddle post, and bits and pieces of the bicycle here, while over-selecting some of these little gap areas in between. Now let's take a look at the new mask. And under the new mask, we have a much cleaner selection back here. It missed this part of the chain, but it did a much better job not over-selecting the bits of the curb, and it did a much better job up here on the front. So once again, here's the old mask, and here's the new mask. Definitely an improvement. Let's look at another image. In the case of this one, I've got this photograph of a maned wolf. And I'm going to zoom in really tight because one of the big improvements in the new masking system is how it handles hair and fur and feathers. So here's the old version of the mask. It's pretty good. It does a nice job, but you can see in the hairs here that it's not perfect. And here's what the new mask looks like. It's much more accurate, and it's giving us much better gaps over here. We move to the other side of the animal here. Here's the old mask, which misses a lot of these really lighter hairs on the outside. And here's the new mask, which selects them beautifully. Old mask, new mask. Let's look at a couple of more examples. In the case of this peacock image, and in this case I've inverted that subject mask, so it's now selecting the background instead, but it's using the same algorithm. And you can see here that it has missed some of the feathers here. It should have not included those. And in the new version of the mask, it does a darn near perfect job of including and excluding the right bits and pieces. So here's the old mask, here's the new mask. Here's another example. The old mask misses this bubble here and over-selects part of her head and hair here that we don't want to be in it. The new mask grabs it perfectly. Includes this other bubble, doesn't include this part of her shoulder. Here's another example that really shows off those hair details I was mentioning. Let's zoom in quite a bit over here to this side of the picture. Here's the old hair mask, or select subject, and then pulling out the hair. And here's the new one. What a difference. The old one has over-selected and picked up a lot of the white background. If you try and change that background, you're going to have those white areas still in your subject like a halo. But with the newer mask, we get a much, much cleaner selection. In the case of this automobile, the old select subject struggles at the front of the car. It can't quite figure out where it disappears into the shadow here and where it should begin or end, so you end up with an imperfect mask. It misses the wing mirror here, it misses the corner of the car and the bumper here, but the new version of the select subject, or select background in this case, mask, does a much better job of it. It grabs the wing mirror, gets the corners of the fender and the headlights, and does a nice job of figuring out where to cut off the bottom of this in the shadows. Even in an image this complex, You can see that the new subject mask works beautifully and gets all the little fine details. This one we'll go ahead and do live. I'm just going to select the background instead of the subject. And you can see that it has gotten all of the little areas in between each of the bits of this flower. So if I turn the exposure down, you should be able to see very clearly that there's no halos anywhere. Let me hide the mask for you. There's no halos anywhere. So it did a beautiful job of just selecting the background or the subject for me. Let's do one more here. I think this makes for a good example. We have a moving subject with slightly blurred edges against a somewhat busy and moving background. So let's go ahead and create a new select subject mask. And it does a remarkable job of picking up. Let me turn the overlay on for you. And you can see it's picked up all of the little flying mane hairs coming off of the horse. It's done a beautiful job back here at the back with the driver. And it's even figured out where the sort of solid parts of those blurred in-motion legs really are. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of just how much this new Select Subject Mask has improved. The other big feature in Lightroom Classic 15.4 is something that Lightroom users have begged Adobe to add for years, and that's duplicate detection and removal. At long last, your prayers have been answered. Photos are considered duplicates by Lightroom only when they contain the same image data, regardless of file name, metadata, or catalog edits. And what this means in plain English is that it doesn't matter what the file name is or what the capture metadata says. What matters is the image itself. Lightroom actually generates a fingerprint for each photo based on the pixel content, and it uses that fingerprint to compare potential duplicates. Once it's identified suspected duplicates, you have the option to remove everything except the master or original photo. You can also hide the duplicates, compare them with each other, designate which one should be considered the master, and more. It's quite functional for a feature in its early stages. The first time you enable the duplicates view by clicking the duplicates icon on the toolbar, you'll be presented with a welcome screen explaining how the feature works. After that, the program will begin analyzing your entire catalog and creating fingerprints for all the photos it contains. You can pause this scanning process at any time, the same way that you can pause address lookup, assisted culling, face detection, etc. via the background process indicator. Now, in the case of my 525,000 image catalog, it took a full 24 hours to search for duplicates. You can expect a shorter time for smaller catalogs. Mine is a bit of an extreme case. Now that Lightroom has determined which photos are duplicates, let's go ahead and look at a single year, in this case 2025, and turn on the duplicates view. You can see that there are two copies of a handful of images and that Lightroom has stacked them together with each other even if they weren't normally stacked. The first image in each stack is considered the original or the master image, and all the others are considered copies. So if you ask Lightroom to remove duplicates, it will take out everything except the one designated as the original. You can also select one of the other images in the stack and designate that one as the original by right-clicking or control-clicking and choosing Set as Original from the contextual menu. At that point, it becomes the master file. And here's one more tip for working with that new duplicates view. If you're trying to figure out which image to keep among a group that's been labeled as duplicates, you can open them directly into the Compare or Survey views with a right click. This makes it easy to see if they are really identical and which one you might want to remove. And that's everything you need to know about the latest Lightroom Classic update. For more Lightroom and Photoshop videos, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel And go ahead and click the bell icon to get notified anytime I post a new video. And if you aren't already on my mailing list, head over to jeffhirsch.com and sign up for the mailing list, and you'll get updates on my classes and workshops and trips, along with bonus tutorial videos and articles for Photoshop and Lightroom. I promise not to spam your inbox, and I will never ever sell your address to a third party. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.